Welcome back, guys. So today we're going to be learning a few tips and tricks around photo editing. We're going to start off on the computer in Lightroom, but I'm going to show you how to edit these exact same photos on your phone. We're going to use the Google Photos app because that's available on iOS or Android. Anyone can use it. So why don't you join me over here at the computer, and then we'll take a look on the phone afterwards, how we can do the same editing techniques. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we're gonna start with a photo here that we took in Hawaii. Because it's in the morning, the sun was rising over the hills there in the distance. It was making the sky very bright, so the foreground ended up being underexposed, and so we lost a lot of the detail in these trees. We wanna bring those out. So the first thing we're gonna do is take a look here on the right with the toolbar here. This is where we're gonna make our adjustments. I always click auto off the bat here just to see what it's going to do with our photo. The system's determining what the perfect exposure is. I don't necessarily use this, but it's a good reference point for you to see what the system wants to do with it. What's possible out of the image. We're going to start back from scratch because I want to show you how to do that editing from scratch. First thing we're going to touch is the exposure. As we touch that, I want you to focus on the histogram up in the top right here. Ideally, you want all that content, those lines, to fit inside of really the left to right area here. What we're seeing right now is with everything populated on the edges, we have things overexposed and underexposed a lot, which ultimately means black or white. We're not seeing the detail, the color out of that parts of the image. So when we push it into the middle, that's actually going to bring out more detail in those areas. So let's go ahead and see what these adjustments do now to that histogram. We adjusted the exposure. Let's adjust the contrast now. I don't want to do too much, but what I do want to do is bring down the highlights. This is going to allow us to see a little bit more of the sky, the clouds. You'll notice as I bring it down, the histogram's starting to look a lot better. We're bringing more of the photo into that histogram range that we want to see it in. Let's now go to our shadows. Same thing, watch the histogram as it starts to bring it over in a positive way. And now we can really see the foreground here. We are using JPEGs for editing because we want to edit the same photos on our phone as well, so be aware of that. Next on to whites, drag it both ways. Again, just see what it's going to do to the image. Figure out where we like it. I think I'm going to bring the whites up a little bit just to really give it that extra pop, have that sun coming over the hills. Next, we'll look at blacks. Still going to bring out a little bit because these trees are a little bit darker than I would like. So we're going to slide it to the right, increase the brightness of those dark areas. At this point, you really have clarity and dehaze that you can manipulate. Clarity, let's show you what it's going to do the max way. It's going to make it look grainy and fake, but you do get a lot of contrast and sharpness with the overall image. I don't like to add too much unless it's a black and white image. I do find adding a lot of clarity in black and white images can really make it pop and create that contrast you want. When you're in color photos like this, dehaze really helps bring out the skies. If you do it too much, it's going to look oversaturated. It's going to darken various areas of the photo, but it does do a good job when there's cloud, fog, haze, anything you want to cut through and really let the viewer see what's behind it. I don't really touch saturation and vibrance unless we're on the phone. I do want to show you this tone curve at the bottom, so we're going to go ahead and change that to medium. What that does is a little bit more granular control over your contrast. So we went to medium. We're going to now pull the low end specifically up. So where the slider bar up top doesn't let you do that, this area is going to actually let me control specific contrast in various parts, shadows or highlights. So let's compare that now to the original. You can really see the night and day difference. All the details on the right are really recovered. It looks a lot more appealing. You can focus on much more of the photo. We can see the town, the sky, the clouds. So that's a good example of how we can recover an underexposed photo. Let's take a look actually on our phone about how we can edit the same photo in a similar manner. This one's underexposed again, and that's going to happen a lot on a cell phone because there's a lot of examples where you may be shooting into the sun, the sky's really bright, and you're going to underexpose certain elements that you really wanted to show off. So we're going to open this in Google Photos again, iOS or Android compatible. Here, I'm going to first off, again, take a look at that auto recommendation. What does this system want us to do? Sometimes it does work, and I actually found that I really do like what Google's recommending here, so we're going to go with that. As well, always make sure to check your brightness on your screen before you start editing the photo. I always go to 80 or 90% because it's going to really affect how you edit your photos. You don't want the shadows to look too dark when they're really not, but it's because your brightness is down. So always check that before editing. We're going to start with auto. We're going to go into the individual sliders now. So we have light, color, and pop. Pop's very similar to dehaze. It's going to bring out the skies and the colors. Let's go ahead and start by expanding light here. So this is going to give us all those controls we're familiar with from Lightroom. Let's start with exposure. We want to make it a little bit brighter just to bring out some of it. We're not going to touch the contrast too much. We're going to leave it pretty much where it was. I think we're going to bring whites down here a little bit because the sky's not too visible. Same thing with highlights. I think by bringing that down just a little bit, we're going to improve the sky look. Shadows, let's go ahead and carry these up a little bit so we can really see what's in the trees. With blacks, it's actually reversed. So sliding to the right makes it darker, sliding to the left makes it lighter. So we're going to go ahead and actually bring those up a little bit. Next, vignetting. I don't really mess with this. What it does is darken the outer edges, so it makes you kind of focus in the middle. I'm not a huge fan of it, so we're not going to use it here. Next, let's take a look at the color setting. So saturation, don't overdo this. Pop also does this, so you don't want to have too much overlap. We're going to bring out just a little bit. Warmth is going to change the white balance or the color of the overall photo. I really don't mess with that too much. Tint, we're not going to touch. Skin tone, we don't have skin here, so we're going to just slide it back to neutral. And deep blue does help bring out the sky a little bit, but we're not going to mess with it too much. Last but not least, let's take a look at pop. Sliding this around, again, you don't want to overdo it. It does a little bit of clarity plus dehaze. I like it right here. We're going to go ahead and save. Let's take a look now at the photo. There's a quick bug here where you have to back out before you can take a look at the edited photo. So we're going to back out. Now we're looking at the edited photo and the unedited photo. So you can really see how much darker this one is. It's not that appealing. Now with those few simple tweaks, we have a great photo. All right, so we went ahead and edited the first photo. Let's dive into the second photo now. This was one I took down at the Santa Monica beach. It was a really amazing sunset one night. This looks pretty good as is. I do like how it is stock, but we can definitely get rid of some of the distractions here. So at the bottom, we can get rid of this, add some contrast to the image, make the sky really pop here, both colors and contrast. So with that, we talked about the histogram. Take a look there first. It's almost the opposite of what we had last time. There's a lot in the center with the mids where we really want to push these out to both the highlights and the shadows. So we're going to go through the same settings here, starting with the exposure. I think I'm going to add just a tiny bit of exposure. Contrast we definitely want in this image. So we're going to slide that over to the right, spread it out on the histogram. 38 looks good. Highlights. I do want the sun to pop here, even at the sake of a little bit of contrast. So we're going to increase it just a little bit to make that really pop. Shadows we actually want to bring down because this is going to get rid of that front area there where the parking lot is, and we really just want to see the outline of the trees with the sunset. We don't want to distract you too much. There's a yellow sign, some grass down there. Same thing with blacks. We can probably lower this a little bit, and that's going to help to darken that lower area. So at this point, you can see how much it really focuses on the sky. It kind of draws your eyes around that blue area through the orange. Taking a look side by side, you can see, again, it's drawing you towards that front area on the left, where on the right, you're really focused on the sky. Not quite done yet, so let's take a look now at our clarity. We're going to slide that to the right. I actually like what this does to the sky, and then same with dehaze. Don't want to overdo it. Let me show you what's sliding too far. It's going to make the colors look really bad. Contrast looks fake. So you really only want to add a little bit just to add that extra pop, but not make it too crazy or too fake looking. Above 30 is really where it starts to get extreme. So we're going to add what we're comfortable with here. Again, we had pop on our cell phones, which is similar to these two, kind of combined into one, but these allow you to control them individually on a computer. Last but not least, we're going to look at the contrast. Again, go to medium, see whether we want to pull something up. I'm okay with it. This actually made the bottom area look great, and now the sky really, really draws you in. So with that, I'm happy with the photo. Let's go ahead and take a look at side-by-side comparison before we edit the same photo on our phone. What do you guys think? Does the right side look that much better than the left side? It was a pretty crazy night, so even though they looked good naturally out of the camera, just adding that extra, layers of really depth to the image really bring it out. All right, now we're gonna edit that second photo on the phone, so let's go ahead and open it up. Gonna click edit, again, Google Photos here. I don't like what Otto's doing here. I don't know why it's changing the colors that much. It's making it really green. So we're not gonna use that as a starting point this time. Go into the settings again, we're familiar with now. Exposure actually looks pretty good on this. Contrast again, we do want to bring that up a little bit. We want to make sure that front area is out of focus and darkened. Whites, take a look at these. Again, we're probably going to pull them up a little bit just to make that sun pop that extra amount. Highlights, I think we're going to do maybe the same thing. Doesn't make a huge difference, but we're going to carry a little bit over. Shadows. So again, we want to darken these, really get that front area out of focus or out of causing them to look there. Same thing with blacks. We're going to slide that to the right to make them darker. Also adds a little bit of contrast to the sky here. Saturation, we're going to give it just a little bit. Again, don't want to overdo it, and we still have that pop lever later on. Not going to mess with too many of these other settings. Going to look at deep blue to see what that does real quick. Maybe just a little bit here. Last but not least, pop here. See what it does. We're going to add just a little bit here. 20% or so. And we're going to go ahead and save it. Let's take a look at that photo side by side. And again, the original and the new photo. Just that extra layer of color, that extra pop, doesn't distract you as much with that grass and foreground at the bottom. Took 30 seconds, and it was a big improvement. All right, so that's it for today, guys. I hope you learned something you can use the next time you're looking at or editing photos. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button. I've got plenty of content coming throughout 2019, tech reviews, tutorials, and vlogs. Let me know what you guys want to see in the future in the comments, and I'll catch you next time. See ya.